And I give the floor to the Russian Federation.
Mr. President, the American draft resolution on the Ukrainian crisis we consider overall as a common-sense initiative, as a step in the right direction, which reflects the will of the new administration of the White House to really contribute to the peaceful settlement of the conflict. We appreciate what was already said several times by the President Trump, namely the understanding that the crisis in Ukraine has its own deeply rooted reasons. So as to make sure that this initiative is to a greater extent in line with the understandings arrived at during the Russian-American contacts at the highest level, we propose an amendment to it on the need to eradicate the root causes of the Ukrainian crisis.
After swift end of the conflict, insert including addressing its root causes. Без этого
Without this, it will be impossible to attain a lasting and sustainable settlement. It will not be possible to arrive at a settlement that's talked about in the only operative paragraph of the document. We also have a second amendment, which is a more accurate reflection of the agenda item and the nature of the crisis. We propose that in the first preamble paragraph, we talk about the conflict around Ukraine, and in the only operative paragraph, we talk about the lasting peace in Ukraine.
Russian Federation-Ukraine conflict with conflict around Ukraine, and in the operative paragraph replace between Ukraine and the Russian Federation within Ukraine. Не можем.
We cannot agree with the interpretation of the conflict as an exclusively two-way confrontation, whereas it has become clear a long time ago that its Western and first of all European sponsors are working through the Kiev regime. For them, presenting this as a Russia-Ukrainian conflict is a very convenient view of the world. It's very comfortable to hide behind that. Otherwise, they would have to acknowledge the unseemly role they've played in the genesis of the Ukrainian conflict. And we call on the members of the Council to support these amendments. As regards the amendments submitted by the European countries, well, they quite clearly replace the essence of the American text. They make it into yet another anti-Russia ultimatum in the spirit of the Bergenstock process. We are going to vote against them and call upon others to follow suit. I thank you.
And I'll give the floor to the representative of the U.S.
Thank you, Mr. President. And I would like to thank the presidency for scheduling this meeting today. Today, we stand on the precipice of history with a solemn task: creating conditions to end the bloodiest war on the European continent since the successive cataclysms that spurred the creation of this council. In June of 1945, the nations of the world stood together, bloodied from two brutal wars, and made a decision. On the day we signed the UN Charter, we cast aside despair and chose hope. We set aside hatred and chose reason. And most importantly, we turned away from the death march of war and charted a path to peace. It is time for us to bring the UN, and specifically the Security Council, back to its original purpose: the maintenance of international peace and security, including the peaceful settlement of disputes. Let us now step up as Council members to chart a path forward so that the Security Council can do its job and end the horror. Generations of Ukrainians and Russians have died. Husbands who will never return home to their wives. Children will never find the arms of their mothers. Parents who will never again see their sons and daughters. The scale of the suffering is staggering. The war has also brought the world closer to a nuclear confrontation, once again raising the specter of fire, ash, and total destruction. Thus, it is our responsibility as UN Security Council members to help end the agony and pull ourselves back from the brink. Continuing to engage in rhetorical rivalries in New York may make diplomats feel vindicated, but it will not save souls on the battlefield. Let us prove to ourselves and to our citizens that we can come together and agree on the most basic principles. Let us show one another that the bold vision of peace that once pulled us out of hell can prevail. Our draft resolution is elegant in its simplicity, a symbolic, simple first step toward peace. The 3 brief paragraphs echo the spirit of the UN Charter and must, as in 1945, affirm that this war is awful, that the UN can help end it, and that peace is possible. We hear our European colleagues when they say they want a durable peace, but not at any cost. Mr. President, to them I would say, rest assured that we too seek this durable peace, and we would remind these colleagues that this resolution is not a peace deal, and it imposes no costs. Rather, this resolution represents the path to peace. We urge all Security Council members to join the United States under the bold leadership of President Trump in this effort to vanquish the scourge of this war. We urge all Council members to join us on this path to peace. As a final note, the United States has called this meeting, which has already, with U.S. assent, been rescheduled once. I thank you, Mr. President.
I thank the representative of the U.S. for the statement.
The Assembly will turn to draft resolution A/ES 11/L10 and L11 one by one. The Assembly will now take a decision on draft resolutions A/ES 11/L10 entitled Advancing a Comprehensive, Just, and Lasting Peace in Ukraine. A recorded vote has been requested. We shall now begin the voting process. Those in favor of draft resolution A/ES 11/L10, please signify. Those against, abstentions.
The Assembly is now voting on draft resolution A/ES 11/L10 entitled Advancing a Comprehensive, Just and Lasting Peace in Ukraine. Will all delegations confirm that their votes are accurately reflected on the screen? The voting has been completed. Please lock the machine.
The result of the vote is as follows. In favor, 93, against 18, abstentions 65. Draft resolution A/ES 11/L10 is adopted.